Critical Blast, where pop culture gets blasted.
And good evening, everybody. I'm your host, RJ Carter, Senior Managing Editor here at criticalblast.com. And today we are going to talk with the team behind the man you all know who's always in the news. He's never got the blues. He's Florida man, and he's always up to something. And to celebrate his impending arrival in comic books, we have with us tonight the Bloody Red Baron himself, Mike Baron. Mike, how are you doing tonight?
Good, thank you.
Glad to have you here. And also joining you, we've got the Florida man artist, Todd Mulrooney. Todd, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. I really appreciate it.
So Mike, Florida man's a busy guy.
Yeah.
Making headlines for 5-6 years now.
Every day in every way.
Every day. I've even seen Florida woman is out there, so he's got a sidekick coming.
Florida boy.
Oh my gosh. So tell us a little bit about this Florida man guy. I mean, I love the gator riding image you have on the cover there, but let's dig back a little bit deeper and go to the inspirations for what.
Where did Florida man come from? Every time I went online, I saw another Florida man story. Some of my favorites are Florida man claims syringe found in rectum are not his. Florida man arrested for defecating on traffic from light pole. Florida man threatens to kill neighbors with kindness, which is the name of his machete. Florida man leads police on a 3.5-hour chase through the attic at Walmart before falling through into ladies' lingerie. I create stories for a living, always looking for ideas, and this idea kept smacking me like a flounder day after day. And finally I said, all right, I get the message. I'm going to write a novel about this guy. In fact, it was a comic book first, and I wrote 5 scripts. And when I was done, I realized I had a detailed outline for a novel, so I wrote the novel, and that got published first, and it sparked interest in the comic again. And Todd was raring to go, and he'd already started working on the pages. And then Chris came on board and offered to run the campaign. So I said, all right. And so the new Florida Man graphic novel contains parts of the scripts I originally wrote for the series I was going to do. But the second half is totally new. And I will say this about Florida Man is that a lot of people say that this is a humorous comic, but people seldom smile. I guarantee you will burst out laughing while you read this book. Your skull will explode and your eyes will bulge out of their sockets. And as soon as you're done, you're going to turn to the person next to you and say, you got to read this.
That's a heck of a guarantee, and I like hearing stuff like that. The art looks amazing, Todd. What is this your normal style of drawing, or are you used to drawing Bubbas?
Well, no, it's not my normal style of drawing because this has an element of comedy. So I took a little bit of the balance out. You know, I'm usually about a 60-40 balance. So I brought it back and allow the colorists to really get involved in the palette and how it looks. And that's really all I've done, because I'm usually a little bit more, chiaroscuro or a little bit more 60-40 balance of black. That's about it.
That definitely wouldn't have worked for Florida Man, I don't think, with the humor here. So what is the what's the story with this particular chapter of Florida Man's life? What are we going to read about when we pick this one up?
Well, it starts out with Gary getting drunk with his best friend Floyd on the deck of his trailer when he gets a phone call. But before he can answer the phone, he falls over dead drunk and knocks himself out to the morning. And he wakes up in the morning and he gets a message from his girl, Crystal. She's in jail for getting naked at a Waffle Hut and licking the manager. So Gary sets out with his best friend Floyd to sell his prized Barry Bonds rookie card to raise the $500 needed for bail. But things get out of hand, and that's just one thing after another. On the way to the pawn shop, they get into a shootout with a state judge And that's just in the opening pages of the book. I can't really tell you what goes on in the book. It's too outrageous, and we don't want to give anything away. But again, I guarantee your jaw will hit the floor.
How many of the rearranging us here a little bit? How many of the events in the book do you draw from headlines?
Well, Gary does grab a gator and run back into the pawn shop when they refuse to pay the price he wants and terrorizes everybody with the gator. And that's a real incident. And also, it starts with Gary going into the trailer to take a leak, and he finds a snake in his toilet. And the toilet snake is a well-established trope of Florida man. There have been many, many stories out of Florida with people finding snakes in their toilet. And this snake, the snake that seems so humble and modest at first, will return to play a huge part in the story.
Love hearing that. How's the Indiegogo been going for you guys? It's Indiegogo, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if it was Kickstarter or Indiegogo. I get them mixed up sometimes.
We're at over 300%, but we're just getting started.
Oh, that's awesome. So you've got still time to go on this.
Oh, yeah. We got about 20 days, a little more, 22.
Me too.
Oh, yeah. It's just a baby project right now then. So for everybody coming into the stream, the link to that project is right there in the description below. Anytime you're watching this, just click on that, go over there and get you some Florida Man. Todd, is there any way you can show us some of the artwork here?
Oh, yes. If you give me a sec, I'd have to
get a screen share going here.
Yeah, give me a sec. There is a way to do this. I want to move it over to my other side so that I'm still able to let me see here.
You have two screens?
Well, I draw on one of them, yeah. Yeah, and I'll even do the whole thing where I'll be able to show the video, the trailer that we have. So we'll do this right. Yeah.
I was going to create a Florida Man trailer today to open the show up with, which was just going to be a montage of headlines. But I don't know. I got some sort of a pink eye thing came on today. My wife gave me a shot of Benadryl at 1 o'clock. And the next thing I knew, I looked up at the ceiling and said, why am I staring at the ceiling? And it was 4:30.
Wow. I envy you.
You know what we should do?
We should, 3-hour nap.
For the audience, we'll do this. We'll go right into this trailer because this is fantastic.
I'll give it the full screen.
Hey man, y'all got beer still?
You've seen the stories. Now, writer Mike Barron and artist Todd Mulrooney are bringing the quintessential Florida man, Gary Duba, to life. Gary's just a regular guy living in a trailer with his girlfriend Crystal, but he's got dreams, big dreams. He just invented house suspenders that will secure any home to the ground in rough weather. And now he's going to show them off on Piranha Pool, the TV show where venture capitalists and entrepreneurs pony up if they like your pitch. But when his gal Crystal gains notoriety as an infamous amateur wrestler, she quickly advances to the pro circuit where her greatest challenge is an angry Australian grappler. Follow Gary and Crystal on their extraordinary journey from rags to riches. To rags, to riches, to rags, to riches. All while dealing with shady lawyers, toilet snakes, wild gators, cheating hearts, feral hogs, and problem shoppers. Back Florida Man today and reserve your very own copy of the Florida Man graphic novel. We're bringing back funny books, y'all.
That is fantastic. I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
that was a... I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The house suspenders thing, that reminds me of one of the inventions that I never finished up on. And by God, it was as good as house suspenders. And I was designing it and working with somebody to do. Okay, so my invention was going to answer the question, when does a redneck take down his Christmas tree lights? The answer, of course, is he never does. So what I had was, I had these boxes that were made out of the same corrugated kind of plexiglass, fiberglass, whatever siding's made out of, that would mount under your guttering. and it had a roll in it and plug-ins at the ends, and you would run your Christmas tree lights would be hanging on that, and then you'd plug them in at the end of it. You could get as many as you wanted and attach them, and then when Christmas was over, you just cranked the handle to roll them back up, close the doors, and you left them there. You could put your Christmas tree lights.
Smart. I like it.
They just be there the whole time. But it was a very redneck idea. And how I don't know, how suspenders just reminded me of that. So I'm looking at the 64 pages. That's amazing. That's very good deal.
Yeah, we wanted a complete graphic novel that was square bound and would sit on your shelf. It doesn't want to go into a bag. Put me on the shelf for sure.
It wants to sit in your lap.
Well, I'm looking at that Coppertone tribute there. That's an awesome picture too. Is that going to be like a postcard or
it's a postcard and a towel. And
yeah.
It's on the lunchbox too.
And that's crystal, right?
Yeah.
Very, very cool. So Todd, walk us through some of the artwork here on this on the page here. Let people see what we're getting here.
Well, obviously you've seen the cover, and that made the rounds all over. I think that's probably why we're here today, because it was well received, and Chris Brawley certainly liked it, and he put this all together as far as the campaign, and is really helping us out big time. He's got a lot of the behind the scenes stuff going on, so he takes a lot off of me and Mike's shoulders. Although this is, campaigning your book is still much of a grind, but it's just a promo I did where Floyd. This is kind of when things went to heck. I thought of, well, you know what? I'll just use Floyd out front for a second here, and he's having a end of humanity sale on moonshine, sanitizer, and toilet paper. And here's one of the pages. What starts out? Why don't you tell them about the scene, and I'll just kind of go through the pages, Mike.
All right. Well, Gary gets arrested for shooting at the judge and thrown in jail, and he calls the lawyer Habib Rodriguez to get him out because they know each other. Gary's done a few favors for Habib, but when they get out, Habib says, "Well, how can you pay me?" And Gary says, I don't have any money, Habib. And Habib says, "Okay, do a favor for me. I have a client who's trying to prove that her husband is cheating on her. I want you to go to this motel after 9 o'clock at night and snap pictures of this guy with whoever he's with." So Gary says, "No problem," and he does it. And he takes Lyle along. Lyle is a guy from the neighborhood who just wanders into his yard one night, and Lyle's a little slow. He can't take a hint, and so he just attaches himself to Gary like a barnacle and rides with him to the motel. And while Gary's outside snapping pictures, a car pulls into the lot, and the beam of headlight casts a shadow inside the room where the cheating husband is with his date, and the date sees it. The date is a 7-foot tall transgender Jamaican named Patrice, and he comes out irate, says, "What you doing, man?" And they get into a brawl right there in the parking lot, and that's how Gary meets Patrice, who turns out to be an important character. That's Habib. That's the lawyer.
I'll get you off one way or another. That sounds slightly double entendre.
A little bit, huh?
Yes.
He's based on the lawyers around here where I live, these ambulance chasers that advertise all the time. Because I watch Judge Judy. Yes, I watch Judge Judy. It's a wonderful source for names. And these ambulance chasers are always advertising on Judge Judy. If you've been in an accident and the insurance company didn't give you what you deserve, call Franklin Azar, the long arm. He'll get you what you deserve. And you don't pay a cent unless we collect.
Yeah, seen lots of those.
Habib's kind of an important character too. There's the toilet snake.
I love this style of art because it's just a personal taste of mine, but I always like the artwork that's more realistic,
Hmm.
as opposed to the exaggerated kind of stuff. And everything's in proportion. It's you've seen people who try to do an independent comic for their first time, and it doesn't look very. It's
Professional.
mechanically correct sometimes, but it doesn't carry the fluidity of motion.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
that's really hard to get.
I know what you mean, and granted, where I am today is different than where I was yesterday. So, you really gotta knuckle down and really bring your characters to life. If you're gonna have a realistic style, you gotta pull off the gesture and sort of have everybody, uh, moving in a natural way and certainly standing in a natural way. If your character's always standing like they're ready to fight, you're not pulling off the story. So the gravity of all the characters needs to be there, and the fluidity for sure. My influences are Butch Guice and Steve Epton and Mike Perkins and guys like that, that have that style. Obviously, I don't know if you remember Ruse. Very inked very well, very realistic, and that those are the things that hit me the most.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff I love.
Who are some of your favorites?
George Perez, Phil Jimenez, and of course Jose Luis Garcia Lopez.
Mhm.
And just for a moment here, I'm huge on Ruse.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite books. I always hated that I never got to finish the story arc because the company went bankrupt.
Mike's work with Jose Luis Garcia Lopez.
He did an issue of Nexus.
He did actually a few fill-ins.
Yeah. Great artist.
So obviously Mike has had a 46-year career, Mike. It's a long time.
Jesus. Seems Todd, it seems I just started yesterday.
I bet. But man, the years that you put in on Nexus, that's incredible stuff,
We're still working on Nexus. Dark Horse will release a new collection next year, and I just financed my novel, which we're going to have here at the house next week. It's like, I don't know, 400 books. It's going to be a big load here, and then we got to mail them all out. And I'm writing the next one. And I saw the dude in February. We got together, and we're both working on Nexus projects. I will have a 3-issue series out through Splato Comics next year, drawn by Kelsey Shannon.
Oh, nice. I was wondering if anybody else was ever going to publish through Splato Comics, or if that was just always going to be exclusively, Richard C. Meyer kind of outlet.
I think it might be a first.
This is the first I've heard of it, so maybe we're breaking the news here tonight on that. Is that what kind of a book are you looking at doing with them?
It's going to be 3 issues. It's a 3-issue story arc, and it's some of the best Nexus writing I've ever done. Richard went crazy when he read the first script. It's only 20 pages. I wish it had been longer, but I make the most of those 20 pages. There's no wasted space, but it's not crammed either. Because a page is infinitely plastic. You can use it to represent a single image, or you can break it down into 12 panels if you like, as long as it's appropriate to the story and move the story forward. I'm not crazy about full-page splashes, especially if it's just a head pontificating. When I put in a full-page splash, it's because you're looking at a fantastic scene for the first time, like a lost city in the jungle.
Yeah, well, Mike Grell always did that with Warlord. Whenever you'd look at the first page, it'd be like a little bit of action, and it'd be leading up to something. And then you'd open up page 2 and 3, and here was always this double-page spread of, oh my God, here we go. The train has left the station. But yeah, I do love. I love it when Splash Page does that. I never liked it back when Image first came out, and they were putting out all their titles, all their number ones. I would read them and I would say, you know what, these are poster books. this with some dialogue on them, because it was always just splash page, 2 panels, splash page. I'm like, I'm getting through the story way too quick with this.
Well, I'm very story oriented. What is a story? It's a dynamic narrative with a beginning, a middle, and an end. And my goal with everything I write is to grab the reader by the throat and drag him into the narrative to the exclusion of all else. I want to involve the reader completely. I don't want him to get bored. I don't want him to set it down and go mix himself a cocktail. I want him to can't wait to find out what happens next.
Well, that's exactly how it was with your run on Flash. When you had Wally West as the Flash, because you were bringing in some concepts there that nobody really thought about with superheroes. It's always been, like, okay, he's this guy, but Wally West, even today, I'm like, okay, he's now I don't know where he's at now, but any one of these characters, other than Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent, you're like, how do you buy groceries? What do you do for a living other than superhero?
It's a tough job melding superheroes with the real world and using real life physics. It's a tricky balancing act.
Yeah. Well, you had Wally having to eat 12 pizzas at a time to replace the carbs. And I'm going to assume that he absorbed almost all of that, because otherwise he would be like clogging toilets also with the waste product from that much. But I think the thing that really got me was when he was asked to run the heart across the country for a donor. And he's like, okay, but what do I get? I'm like, wait a second, you're the superhero. You're supposed to just say, I'm on it. Zoom, you're gone.
Superheroes got to eat, especially Wally.
Needed health insurance. So he said, look, I'm going to do it. I just want to, get something out of it. So that was very cool. But I'm nailing this down in my head here that you're doing something for Splato and that it's Nexus. I'm like, that's huge news. So I'm definitely going to be looking forward to that. But returning to Florida Man, is this going to be this is a graphic novel. So this is going to be the story is completely told here.
Oh yeah, it's a complete story.
But I'm guessing that there's so much more that can be done with these characters that you probably thought well ahead.
Yeah, we're already thinking of the next book.
Will they have subtitles, or will it just be Florida Man 2, Florida Man 3?
I hadn't thought about subtitles, but the sequel to the novel is called Hogzilla.
I've seen Hogzilla on television.
Right.
He's huge.
Yeah. And it's about Gary's quest, his Ahab-like quest to stop a 1,000-pound feral hog that's been devastating his housing development.
Very, very cool. Todd, we know where Mike's come from. Like you said, 45 years of.
It was only 12.
Only 12. Okay, 12 years of writing experience. Where's your art come from, Todd? I mean, what have you been doing before this? Let's let people know where they can, find that first Todd Mulrooney published comic and put it away in plastic.
That'll be a tough one. But about 3 years ago, I did a book with Paul Kupperberg, former DC line editor. Him and some friends, industry vets, are. They started something called Charlatan Neo, and Charlatan has a lot of Steve Ditko characters, and creations that were part of Charlatan. So they're kind of keeping that whole Steve Ditko thing alive, and not that there's not original stuff over there is, but usually in say anthology that they do, there's 2 or 3 Ditko characters, and I created a character called Blank, who was a derivative of the Question. So instead of the fleshy mask, he had a chrome face like Silver Surfer, so that when the enemy or the guy he's punching on was looking at him, he was seeing himself. And I thought that was way more menacing than just a fleshy face. And he loved that. I mean, he asked me for, to create that character. He wanted a derivative. All I did is sort of change that and not have him wear a trench coat. and we did an issue. There's going to be more, and I'm not part of it, but there's going to be more blank. And so that was the first thing I did that was published. Did a few covers for a few individuals. I think that's how Mike knew me, or kind of seen me. I did a Mike W. Barr cover for his first prose novel, once a Wizard. And then I did James Hudnall, who was friends with Mike and friends with me. I did a cover for him for his writing book, like Secrets of Writing, something like that. So then I won that contest to do Graveyard Shift 2 with John Malin and Mark Polton. And I did a story called Killer 99 with Von Kloss, a writer who has a book out called Monster MD. Yeah. And that book is now shipped everywhere. I see people opening it. I don't have a copy yet, but hopefully we have some copies coming from what I'm told. And, I want to see how that work came out. It was horror work, and it wasn't really my approach. I thought of a better approach after I'd finished all the work that would have made it more cinematic, because I had a character that kind of lumbered along. He was a Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees sort of derivative character who, as you running away, if you had just ran as fast as you could, as far as you could, you would have had a day on him for how fast he moved. But they don't. They kind of go into a car and try to start a car, or they go hide in a meat locker, or whatever they do. So he just picks off one victim after another, and that was the story I did with that.
Very cool. You're throwing names out there that you're making me misty-eyed, more so than my pink eye's doing here. But
Mike's my third. Mike's my third Eisner winner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're just. I used to go to the comic shop and spend like $25 a week, and that was back when you came out with a good stack of comics. I'm like, I'm cutting into my grocery budget because I'm buying this one, I'm buying this one, I'm buying this one. Now it's like, I love my LCS guy. I love going to Cosmic Comics, and I'll always buy something. But it's a chore to decide what do I like enough to want to buy. Because the people who can tell a story, at the very minimum, can't tell a comic book story, because they're still writing their prose novel. And like, yes, here, I always go for the basic, obvious one. Here's a great Batman story. It's 100 issues to tell it. And, every 7 issues is a day. And that's not what, I'm used to, here's a single issue of Superman that tells a week in the life of him fighting Lex Luthor and a machine that did this, and how's he going to get over it. And he calls in a friend, and they fought, and they've got it over with, and here's the end of the story, and everybody's happy, and we're going home. I feel like I've run a marathon after one of those Superman books like that from the 70s, and now it's like I feel like I just started reading the book when I've closed it out. I'm like, where's the meat?
I think those writers really don't understand the medium. I'm a big fan of self-contained single-issue stories, and I've done hundreds of them, both Nexus and Badger and Punisher.
Yeah, absolutely. I love reading Badger, by the way. He was one of my favorites when I was in college.
Thank you.
But I did this insane mad quest about 5 years ago because I have comic books.
I see them.
That go back a ways. And I got to wondering why I wasn't getting enough, why I didn't feel like I was getting fulfilled in my stories. So I went back and I took a 10-issue run of Justice League from every decade, or 12-issue run. I wanted a whole year. So I had a 12-issue run from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and the 2010s. And I made them contiguous, and I opened them up, and I counted the stories, the full stories, so a 2-part story, 2 books. Okay, that's 1 story. And then I went ahead and I counted the panels. I counted the pages. I counted the words. That's where it got like really super crazy. And yeah, it was a long time to do all this. I'm like I got a notebook where I was like tick, 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 and just writing it all down and counting them.
What were
But at
your
the end,
conclusions?
my conclusions were that if you take the cover price of the book and adjusted it for inflation so that they were all working on an even field, you're getting fewer stories and fewer pages and fewer panels for the same dollar. And in fact, you're paying more per word than you were paying back in the 70s, adjusted for inflation. So, and it spiked in the 90s. It was a pretty even plateau from the 60s to the 80s. But as soon as the 90s hit, it was like suddenly there was this huge disparity between what you got and what you paid.
Did any of those stories grab you by the throat? Were they so compelling that you couldn't put them down?
Few of them. I mean, I had some of the Grant Morrison early Justice League on that run. I really liked what he was doing with it. I liked what Brad Meltzer did with the Justice League when he took it over. But
That was a good series.
again, it was still, you had to read a lot of books to get the full story in. And I'm with you. I'm all for self-contained stuff. Subplots are great. You know, if there's something running along here, like, you know, if this feral hog is always terrorizing Florida man in every graphic novel, that's different. That's a running joke. That's something to be resolved. But if you just can't get to the end of the story in 22 pages, rework your story.
Yeah, I can't tell you the fate of Hogzilla. That would be giving away too much. But I will say this, that we have other animals that are recurring characters.
I hope Toilet Snake's one of them. You flush him, he comes back.
Toilet Snake is indeed a recurring character.
So what kind of feedback have you gotten on what people have seen from Florida Man so far?
They're very excited. They can't wait to read the book.
I can believe that. I'm going to bring it back up here just a little bit so people can get a little, look at this if they're coming in late. Now, who's the guy with the lightning bolt on him?
Oh, that's Lyle. That's just a character that, you know, he's not one of the main characters. This is Gary, this guy in the middle who's got his hand on his head. Over here leaning on his truck is Floyd. And this is Crystal in the background. This is what she looks like now. But when I first drew Crystal, not that she won't have a little pet pig, but this was an original character design for Crystal. And so she's changed a little bit, and she's a little bit more curvy, a little bit more sexy. And, you know.
Well, she's been in training.
Yeah, right. We can't say, well, we can tell you it's for wrestling, but
that's right. That's about all we can say at this time.
Yeah, we've seen her wrestling.
This is Gary.
In typical comic book tradition, she's not built like a bodybuilder. You kept her sexy. The heroic proportions is what I always hear when you talk about how comic book art is done up.
They are heroic.
This is Gary and Lyle in Floyd's truck because they're on that stakeout. And this is their reaction when they first see who is driving up to that motel. So this is their first notice of Patrice.
Okay. I see the perks under here. Let's talk about some of the stuff. You know, I mean, the book is good enough to get, but this is a unique perk here. I've not seen anybody do a lunchbox.
Well, I mean, when we started talking about this and having sort of strategy meetings about the campaign, one of the things that I kept talking about how the crowdfunding is different, right? Because people put their money down, then they wait in anticipation for things. So you make them events, right? You break in the veil by doing these type of things with the creators and if people wanted to ask questions in a chat, whatever. So you make them, you want to give them more. You want to give them a keepsake. You make it an event. And Chris came up with the whole lunchbox idea because he kind of had one in the room that he was sitting in. So it just seemed natural, you know. We've come up with we've come up with a lot of other little things, and you kind of price them out. You look at the viability of them. Doesn't mean we won't do them. Well, you just don't want to kind of give everything out in the first campaign. So a lunchbox, a towel, a T-shirt. Here's the towel. These are the things that will make this more of an event. You can, at any level of any tier, right? You buy in just at the book level, you can add any one of these things on.
Sure.
If you want a towel or you want the T-shirt, you can add that on. So that's how we set up the campaign. And honestly, that's how I'd suggest anyone set up their campaign is make sure you give people more. It's like you're creating almost like a brand. Basically, me, Mike, Chris, we're creating a brand. It's the Florida Man brand. And if we pull off, if we're successful in pulling off exactly what we're aiming to do, you get your box, whether it's just the Gemini mailer with the book in it and some extras and maybe a poster, whatever, you're happy. And then we hit all the marks in the book. Now you're a customer. Now you're going to keep getting Florida Man, and it's going to be you that turns whatever that number of backers is into more backers, because you're going to say, look, you didn't get it the first time. I did, and it was excellent. Make sure you're on this. And so you're creating this community, this network, and that's kind of the event aspect, as make everyone happy, keep them happy, and they'll become your machine too. Because right now it's me, Mike, and Chris. We're going around, we're doing shows like this. We all do a little bit of promo work as far as sharing and putting tweets and posts out there. But eventually you hope that all your happy fans become part of that machine. You see it with the other books, right? The big books. You see how the fans go, look, I opened it up, read it, it was excellent. Bam. Now you're on the roll. You have 1,000 good quality happy fans. You can keep doing this for however long it takes.
Now, there's a difference between perks and stretch goals.
Mhm.
Perks are that you can add on to the book for those who are uninitiated in the crowdfunding world. And then stretch goals are you bought the book, and then you find out that enough people bought the book that you're going to get something more than what you just paid for. And those unlock as they go along. So what stretch goals have we unlocked here, and what do we got coming up?
Originally, the book was 56 pages. Now you're getting 64. You're getting on a better. It's going to happen on a better grade of paper. That's the very first one. Then the next one is a bookmark and a second exclusive postcard. So I'm a believer of, you give them more of the quality of what you're doing. There's no reason I'm not going to add a keychain or little tchotchkes. I want it to be something that has the art on it, better paper, better cover, so things like that. So our upgrades or our stretch goals are all kind of built into that, that in mind.
Little things like that really do make people happy, though. I used to sell insurance for a living and go to the conventions there, and you would have people who'd made like $300,000 that year selling insurance. Well, I wasn't one of them. Upset because they didn't sell enough to get a $20 T-shirt that was given out as like, hey, here's a T-shirt for this guy because it shows he did this. It's worth more than money sometimes just to know, hey, I got this really cool item. That 25,000 stretch goal, that postcard, is that the postcard of the cover, or is that the copper tone?
It's going to be new,
postcard?
brand new. Nobody's seen it.
Yeah, it's completely different.
I've seen it.
Now my other question, Mike, is you hit the $20,000 stretch goal. That took it from a 50-page to a 64-page. How do you do that? I mean, was the thing going to be sketched out to be 50 pages? Now you've got more story?
There are a lot of ways you could do it, but I didn't have to change a thing because Todd wanted to draw more wrestling sequence. So we're expanding the wrestling. We're expanding Crystal's debut, her professional debut against Rock Lobster.
Oh, B-52s.
That also, by the way, just so people know, if anyone who watches this, gives me more opportunity because Mike has written a wrestling scene that is on the mat, and then you see a little crowd reaction, and then it's back to the mat and some more crowd reaction. So it gives me an opportunity because I've said I'm willing to put people in the crowd that tweet out, or create original posts, tweet out, or reshare things like that. So I've got a few people on my whiteboard. It's a list of about 8 people that have been very, very helpful to the campaign as far as being another part of the machine, right? So they're like a wing of the advertising campaign, and I'm going to honor that because that's you're almost like a call to action. It's like, here, we want to be successful. Help us be successful, and I'll put you in the book.
And crowdfunding is great for that too. I mean, it really is revolutionary for comics, even though we've been doing it now for what feels like a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Because if somebody likes it, they tweet out about it now, and all their followers hear about it. Plus, people that they don't know hear about it that just happen to follow them. It's bigger than you left the comic store and you told your 2 friends that, hey, I bought the new Batman, you might want to go get it, because you talk to so many people at one time now. We're all broadcasters.
Yeah, you're right. And look where we are today with what we have as far as number of backers. Obviously, that's the number that means the most to me. That was an event that happened where Chris Brawley got himself banned from Reddit because he just wanted to let people know, hey, look, Mike Barron, legendary writer's got a new book coming out. I think it's going to be great. So that gets him banned, and that creates a story that happened on Bounding Into Comics, by written by John Trent, and then that creates another situation where now Captain Frugal, Clownfish TV, and Heels versus Babyface all create one of those sort of expose YouTube videos where they just sort of show you what went on in the article. And bam, now all the fans of those shows are like, hey, they're trying to cancel Mike Barron, legendary writer? No way. So boom, we got a big shot from that, and that just worked out in our favor.
I can't believe Reddit is still in existence because all I ever hear about it is who's getting banned from it. Haven't they not banned it?
I have never heard of Reddit until they banned us.
I have tried to go to it once or twice, and I can't even read Reddit. It's just this horrible layout, horrible structure. And I did try, back in the day when Critical Blast was first setting up, I'm like, okay, well, I got to hit all the social medias. So I post an article and I say, okay, link it out on this, link it out on that. I linked like 2 of them out on Reddit, and they came back and said, oh, no, you can't be linking your own stuff. I'm like, well, screw it. What am I on here for then?
Yeah, that there is as far as promotion, if you're talking about the comic book subreddit, as far as promoting yourself, you can't do that. It's got to be done by a third party. But as far as like saying, hey, look what I drew this Robin picture today, you can do that. I don't get it. I don't understand it. It is a amalgam of all its, of its own. Originally, Reddit was created by investors and celebrities were on there in the very early days doing Q&As. So you had access to your favorite celebrities. Then it sold to the Chinese government, and now they're gone. So they made what they wanted to make out of it, and now it's just sort of a despot.
Well, we don't have many choices. Everyone says, we'll just go to another platform, but some of these other platforms just aren't taking off yet. Everyone talks about how bad Twitter is, but by golly, we're all still there, aren't we? So.
It's all in what you make of it. You know what I mean? If you want to, I did a lot of blocking over the last 2 days of people that attack me for sharing Chris Brawley's article, and you know what? That's fine. I never had whoever you interact with is who you see. It's the same with Facebook. So you share this guy, talk to this guy, interact with this guy, like this, because you saw a great someone, Rob Willis draws a great Shinobi Sasquatch. Well, that's who you end up seeing. If you don't interact or even care about what so and so is doing, you won't see their stuff. So it is kind of what it is.
Well, Mike, you get to stay out of that kind of thing because the only tweets I really see from you are Florida Man and some of these great images that I don't even know where you find them at.
I like to entertain, and I don't get into food fights on Twitter.
Well, you're a wise man, sir. Just show the funny pictures that make.
Yeah, these formats are fine if you know how to conduct yourself. But some people are simply argumentative. I have 5 rules. 1 is no sarcasm. 2, no personal attacks. 3, be brief. 4, keep your sense of humor. And 5, most importantly, know when to quit.
That needs to be engraved on something.
It needs to be engraved on people's foreheads backwards so that when they look in the mirror, they can read it.
Absolutely. So is the Florida Man campaign going to be a 30-day, or are you going to hit 30 days and extend for another 30 days, you think? A lot of people do that.
There is some talk.
We will finish out we put this up originally as 52. We have the ability to extend it, for 80, I believe. And then that's that. But we will end up in demand anyway. So, obviously the campaigning of the live campaign is the hardest. It takes up a lot of time.
Yep.
Mike did 6 hours of YouTube the other day. I did 5 hours of YouTube myself. So it's just a little bit nerve-wracking in that sense. I would just rather get to the work because I'm starting to get my mojo back and the characters all really back in my head and they're coming out easier. So I'd rather be able to just concentrate on that. And so we got 22 days left. So I'm going to start slimming my schedule down a little bit and focusing on that because I'm starting to get it all juiced. I'm getting juiced again, the ideas and the things I want to throw in a panel or whatever in the background, they're all starting to come back to me.
How many pages have you got done, Todd? Obviously the whole story is written, so Mike's just kind of sitting back waiting on you now.
Yeah, I have about 8 or 9, 10 pages. Some of them, about 7 of them are in a very complete process. Even, 4 of them, 5 of them are colored and 3 of them are inked. So we got 7 in that kind of process and working on some other ones. I was working before we came on.
What's your average pace? Just so you got 10 pages done. We're looking at another 54 pages.
Without any interruptions and having to do YouTube and stuff like that, I can average easily about 3 pages a week because I do the pencils and the inks. So yeah, without all this campaigning and nerves and all that nonsense, it's easy to do about 3. I can push myself to 4. At the very tail end of John Malin's project, I was doing a page a day because I had a deadline. I had a deadline I had to hit, and so about 10 of the pages that I did were done in a day.
So what you're saying is
a day a piece. I'm sorry, a day a piece. So 10 I got to the point where I had 12 days left, and I had 10 days left, and I came in a little early, so I did a page a day in a period of 10 days.
So I'm sitting here trying to figure when we'll actually see the book. Sounds like there's another 20 weeks of drawing, roughly.
Yeah.
So it's not good. I'd say looks like January 2021.
We're going to get it before then. It's going to be to you before Christmas.
Okay, well, good. It sounds like it'd be a great. Everybody wants to go to Florida for the holidays. So
if we end up at this last stretch goal, that's going to really be pushing it. His very last stretch goal is it turns it into 80 pages.
Oh, no. We're not doing 80 pages. We're saving those pages for the next book.
Be a lot more wrestling going on.
I mean, there would be no problem in creating more pages of story. And when I say story, I mean stuff that's absolutely fascinating that you can't put down. That's what I set out to do, and it's what I do. I just think that's unrealistic. We want to get this book in the hands of our patrons sooner rather than later. But we're already planning the next book. The next book is going to be dynamite. I have so much material that I could probably write The Adventures of Florida Man forever.
We would love that. So Crystal's a cheerleader too.
No, I created a meme, a Florida Man meme, and it was I don't know if you know this, but Tom Brady is. I'm from Massachusetts. Tom Brady broke our hearts by leaving to go play for Tampa Bay. 2 weeks into this whole deal of practice and stuff, he after getting drunk with some teammates, he walks into the wrong house. So this was part of that. Those are the Tampa Bay colors, and this was part of that meme of me. Sort of, this is paraphrasing, but it was like, "Hey, Tom Brady, it only took you 2 weeks to become a legitimate Hall of Fame Florida man."
Yes. Well, I love that cheerleader thing. I don't know if it's one of your tchotchkes or not, but that would make a great sticker / refrigerator magnet.
Oh,
yeah, we're thinking about it. Yep.
Yeah, that's a definite. That's a very nice, complete image. So yeah, you can guarantee something like that.
Yeah, I go through an outfit called Sticker Mule, which everybody seems to know about now, and we have these hollow foil Critical Blast stickers, 3-inch nice. But we're fortunate that our badge is a perfect circle. That's just how we designed it. But they cut to the size and shape of whatever your thing is. So you guys sent that off to Sticker Mule and said, "Hey, we've got Florida Man stickers."
Make it an oval.
Yeah, you wouldn't even have to make it an oval, Mike. I mean, it could actually fit the
Yeah, you're right. It can be any shape you want.
They die cut it for you. You don't even have to tell them to. They just say, you just order it as a die cut one, and they say, "Okay, well, we're just going to put like a 1/4 inch around the entire thing, and we'll cut it out, laser cut it for you." I've got refrigerator magnets that do the same thing. They're just the thin little flexible magnet, and slap it up on the fridge. I'd pick one of those or want one of those to go with my comic any day of the week. I'm still a sticker collector kind of guy at 53. So
you're a stickler for stickers.
Yes, absolutely. Especially when they, when they look like that. That's a great looking image.
Yep.
All right. So everybody who's in the chat, Xevious and Ignition, thank you for popping in here. Glad to see you guys. Hit that link in the description here because I'm obviously not helping them finish too much now because they've met goal 3 times over. It's going to happen. So I can't say make it happen, but make it happen bigger. Go out there and make us hit some of them stretch goals. Make Todd work a little harder to have to put out more pages or something.
I have to repeat again that if you've ever ordered a crowdfunded comic and it never arrived or it came and you were disappointed, I guarantee no one will be disappointed in Florida Man.
You know what? I'll back that guarantee up myself too, because this is not a team that you've never heard of. You've seen Todd's work on Night Shift. Just say it for me, Todd. I can't think of
Graveyard Shift too.
Graveyard Shift. I'm going Night Diggers, Grave Diggers, Graveyard Shift. I'm blaming the Benadryl, and I'm not going to say anything else about that. And you've known Mike Barron for years. This is not a couple of fly-by-night guys that said, "Hey, let's make a comic and see how much money we can get in." These guys are going to deliver a comic, and you are going to love it. I'm going to get out there and back it as soon as I get off of here.
Thanks, RJ.
Sometimes I don't, but this is one I'm going to do. Like everybody else, I got to eat and feed my family too, so I just can't buy comic books all day long, especially when they're crowdfunded prices. It kind of gets expensive real fast. But I think for a 64-page graphic novel, I'll definitely put it down. Folks, if you want to help the channel out, easiest way to do that is to just hit criticalblast.com and check out the articles and interviews we do there. The ads will then take care of us a little bit. But if you do like material, I'm trying to really push. We have a new horror anthology out right now called The Devil You Know, 20 authors, 20 stories, 370 pages. It's on Amazon, and the link is in the description. But this is the book that came out before that. This is our hardcover young adult superhero novel called Bulletproof by Stephen J. Mitchell. That link is also below. I'm pushing this right now because Stephen is a single dad, teenage daughter, and he's been job displaced by COVID, so we have bumped his royalty up to 100% of anything that comes in on that. If you guys could, you're interested in a really good superhero story, young Cody Haywood is 16 years old, wakes up on his birthday to find out that suddenly he's bulletproof. He lives in a world of superheroes, so he thinks he's going to become one. But unfortunately for Cody, he has the attention span of a ferret on pixie sticks, and he's going to require the help of his girlfriend and his best friend to keep him focused if he's going to survive the terrorists who would like to find a way to take him apart and get the secret to being bulletproof for themselves. Mike, Todd, it's been a true pleasure having you guys on here. Always love talking with you guys. Mike, this is like the third time you've been on our show.
Thank you, sir.
We hope to have you back many, many times again. Todd, same for you. Good luck with Florida Man. Folks, get out there and hit that link and make Florida Man a legend, bigger than he is today. And with
written by a legend. So let's do it for Mike.
Absolutely. A legend from a legend. Thank you all.
Hi. Thanks for stopping by for another Critical Blast video. The internet is a big place, and we know there are lots of other places you could be other than here, and we appreciate you being here immensely. If you enjoyed this kind of content, we hope you'll return for more. If you click the subscribe button, you'll get a little notification of when we produce new video content. If you would like to help the channel out, there are many ways to do so. Just visiting our main hub, criticalblast.com, will do wonders. But if you're more of a show me the merchandise type of person, there are links in the description of this video to our t-shirt shop, as well as links to Amazon for the books we publish under the Critical Blast Publishing imprint, including the urban fantasy anthology Gods and Services and the YA superhero novel Bulletproof by Stephen J. Mitchell. Thanks again for visiting this video. We hope you had a blast.